guys, and welcome back to another podcast.
Today we're talking MOTs and basically failing MOTs.
Which we have quite a bit of knowledge about, weirdly enough.
We have knowledge firsthand on this, don't we? So we've, as you've seen from our previous videos and vlogs, we've had a lot of trouble with MOTs over the last couple of years.
That we have.
So one of the things we want to talk about today is the amount of failures, ghost MOTs, the new laws that's coming in later this year. But let's go back. We bought our motorhome a couple of years ago, and one of the reasons we picked the one that we did was because it had got 3 fairly clean MOTs previously.
It had. We're under no assumption that we actually know anything about motorhomes when it comes to what we need to look at, what you don't. Like, the only thing I was ever taught growing up was look for damp. If it's fine for damp, you're all right. So that's what we did. We had a good look around the van. She looked clean. She looked dry.
Yeah.
So yeah, we didn't know anything. So the only thing we thought, well, we'll check her. So we did. Before we actually went and purchased it, we had a look on the government website, which is free, to double check the MOT, and it came back as 3 years clean.
Yeah, and I also downloaded a report which gave things about finance, its history, what had happened to it, and obviously on there, as you say, the last 3 MOTs were fairly clean. So we got it into our head, and it was like, yeah, that's not bad for a van this age. And we also, when we went to buy it, the guy that sold it to us presented us with this pack of paperwork.
Yes.
Itemising everything that had happened to the van, what had been purchased.
Literally everything. It had paperwork for stuff in the van that the van didn't even have anymore, like microwaves.
Yeah, it was pretty comprehensive, and I'd seen, well, you flick through it, don't you? Normal things, tyres, and the odd bit of welding.
Yes.
Which still didn't raise any alarms.
Well, no, because she'd also just had a brand new fan belt fitted.
Yeah.
So they looked like the previous owners had kept up with the actual maintenance of the van. Yeah. And he gave us a big story about why they got rid of it, because they needed to downsize in the van. And he gave us this big spiel. And I don't know, I think we might have been a little bit naive.
We were very naive in hindsight, and hindsight's a great thing. I think we probably should have got somebody to give it the once over.
It would have made a bit more sense.
Yeah, I mean, the people like the AA do a service where they'll go and do a so many point check on the vehicle. And I think at that stage, we may have uncovered some things that we know about now.
But like we said, that's in hindsight. And unfortunately, you cannot go back. So let's get into some facts and figures.
Yeah, so I've done a tiny bit of digging on this. But it turns out that last year, 1 in 5 vehicles in the UK failed its MOT. That equates to 9.9 million vehicles failed an MOT.
That's a massive amount of vehicles that are not...
I'm actually surprised at that. I'm absolutely staggered that it's 10 million fails. Now, that's either the vehicles in the country in a really, really bad state, or the test is more stringent. And we know that the MOT test is now not as stringent as it used to be. So all I can guess from this is that the state of vehicles in the UK are getting worse.
I also think it's one of those things where we've had vehicles that have gone to an MOT centre, and the variant between garages that do the MOT is just, it's just amazing.
Well, we'll come on to that, because that's a massive thing. Dangerous fails. I've unearthed that dangerous is a pretty much do not drive.
Yes, which we had last year.
Yeah, 60% of all those were failures on tyres. And I think that is a dangerous thing. So 60% of fails were on tyres, 30% were on brakes. Put those two things together, and you've got a really dangerous vehicle. As a result of all these failures, you can understand why the government are now clamping down with the new law, which is going to take photographs of vehicles. 80% of fake MOTs are ghost MOTs, so the vehicle never even goes to the garage. Somebody just issues an MOT, and there's thousands of these, and they're trying to crack down. Have we been a victim of ghost MOTs?
I think it's one of those things where, for me personally, I don't think that should be. I think there should be some sort of better way of managing the way that they do an MOT. I understand that they have guidelines that garages have to follow. So a bit of a story time. So when we had our first MOT, which if anybody hasn't seen the video, we will link them below because they're a brilliant watch. And this is the only time that we've never actually physically talked about it, where now we can.
Yes.
We couldn't talk about it at the time, but it's been a year, so now we can. So what happened is we took it to a garage in Mansfield, and they are getting named and shamed. So it was MK...
No, R&K Garage.
R&K Garage in Mansfield. Avoid like the plague, please.
Yeah.
We took our motorhome there. They said that they did motorhomes, so we were like, yep, that's perfect. We booked in an area we wanted to be at. We took it in. They were lovely to begin with, but we did notice straight away there was something dodgy. There was no other vehicles apart from taxis.
Taxis.
Every single other vehicle that was in there, like, and I mean, there must have been 20 taxis all parked in there, in and out the garage, and taxi drivers dropping off keys and whatever else. So that should have been a red flag straight away.
Yeah.
But we had it done. It failed on two things, which we thought, right, okay. One was the handbrake, one was the brakes.
Yeah, it was brakes, wasn't it?
So we thought,
Essentially.
Brilliant, fine. Asked them when they could fix it, and they were just, yeah, we can't get you in for a week. It was the day before it was due to have its last MOT.
You get so many days between your MOT getting it fixed and having it re-MOT'd.
Yes. And it was literally the day before.
Yeah.
Then you could have it re-MOT'd.
Yeah.
Which also happened to be the day before our MOT ran out. So it was kind of a little bit too close. So we took it to another garage. This other garage did the work, fixed everything up. So we took it back to have it re-MOT done.
Yeah, it was after a period of time, wasn't it? Because we were looking for a part on the brakes that didn't exist. We went through all that kind of saga.
Yes.
They adjusted the handbrake for us, and yeah, we took it back to get it re-MOT'd.
So we packed it up. We went and took the keys in. Everything was fine. And then we are quite weird, but we were refreshing the app because we have security in the van. So we can refresh it and let us know when the van's moved. So we knew what time it actually got in for its MOT, so we knew how long we had to wait. And it moved, then 10 seconds later, it moved back out.
Yeah.
And we were kind of like, okay, what's going on? So we went down and this, that and the other. And this is the bit where for us was kind of like, yeah, something's not right now. This is it. And we walked in, didn't we? And all she did is she wasn't polite about it. There was no niceties about it. She kind of just threw the keys across the bench and went, it's failed, the handbrake snapped. And before you had a chance to even say to her, when can you book it in? We can't fit it in.
So yeah, but it was a really, really, really bad experience from them. So they'd only identified a couple of things on...
It was the two things.
Yeah, it was the brakes. And so all intents and purposes, if the handbrake hadn't have snapped, they'd have re-MOT'd it on those two items and it would have passed.
Yeah, because they were the only two things that they found as a failure.
Yeah.
So we then took it back to the garage who did the work.
Oh, I was fuming, wasn't I?
Oh,
Absolutely fuming.
Yeah. So we took it back to the garage that actually did the work, and he said, right, okay, I'll re-MOT it again, and I will see what issues need fixing and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And I have to say, it was probably the actual man who did the MOT spent longer filling out the paperwork than he did doing the MOT. It was hours. And we were kind of sat there and we knew there was something wrong.
Yeah.
And he literally, his face when he come through.
Well, they pulled me out, didn't they? And asked me to go, because they got it up in the air. So I went and had a look at what they'd found. And it was the first time that the van had a thorough
MOT
and somebody actually viewing it properly. So this guy was obviously old school. He knew what he was talking about.
Yeah.
But they came up with dangerous defects. The rust that we experienced where we had to get the welding done last year. But the first garage had missed all these dangerous things, and they would have passed it, and we'd have been driving quite happily up into Scotland, up in the Cairngorms, with half the subframe hanging on, as it turns out.
Well, the guy said to us, didn't he, when they redid the MOT, he was shining a torch around. He took lots of photographs. He was very thorough with the MOT, and he said, and I remember him shining the torch and said, look, there's actual holes you can see straight through. Like nobody could physically miss that unless you didn't look underneath the van. It's not like a little job. It was a huge, massive hole in the subframe.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like it was just a little bit where it could have been like, okay, that needs to go as an advisory. It needed doing. He said it was that dangerous that we shouldn't have even been in the van.
Shouldn't be driving it. They didn't fail it with a dangerous do not drive because it was still holding together okay. But then we found a garage potentially to do the work, didn't we? Because the garage, Eden, who were very, very helpful. They were absolutely brilliant with us. We took it to another garage. He had a look at it, and almost instantly he says it's not something we can touch. It's
No.
too bad. So we knew that Eden weren't like over egging it, or they weren't over exaggerating, because we had a second opinion, not an opinion, but a second person to look at it, and he straight away said this is just a massive amount of work.
The problem was it wasn't Eden. Eden would have done the work. The problem is you needed the ramp. The van had to be on a ramp, which meant because it was an MOT centre, we were taking up their. It would have been taking up their ramp for a week, where it was just a loss of money for them. That was the only reason Eden said they couldn't do the work.
Well, he wouldn't be able to MOT, would he? That's what he said. And that's a lot of their
bread and
work
butter.
is bread and butter, is MOT, which I've got no problem with that. So we spent quite a while finding somebody. In the meantime, I got in touch with DVSA.
We did.
Because we'd been advised to contact them, because the first garage had missed so many things. Normally you go to DVSA and say, look, it's failed, it's MOT, I don't think it should. What we were going to them, and they were quite surprised, was it hasn't failed on these things, and it should have done.
Yeah.
So they took it quite seriously. There
was something like 12 things on this MOT that the first garage had completely missed.
Yeah.
Or not even bothered to look at, because either they didn't want to do the work, or whatever it was. At the end of the day, they were dangerous things that they should have spotted. And I'm guessing if they'd have looked underneath, they probably did spot. They just didn't want to report it.
Or probably want to do the work, or just didn't want to do it. And brakes are easy to fix, aren't they? Normally put some new brake pads on, or just tighten a cable. And I think that's all the first garage were interested in. So they really they didn't want to do the MOT. If they don't want to do motorhome MOTs, don't advertise it. That's the thing. But if you're going to do it, then you need to do it properly.
When I came to the taxi side of things, we didn't know at the time, we don't now, is this MOT centre was run by or owned by the same person who owned the taxi company.
Yeah.
So it looked very much like he had the MOT centre just to MOT his taxis.
Yeah.
Later on we found out he'd sold it to his cousin or something, but he was still very much just doing the taxis.
Yeah, it looks like it's a family affair, but it's primarily there to service, repair
ABC taxis.
and MOT their taxis. And I think everything else is secondary, because you can't have a private MOT centre. It has to be public. So I think that's where that stemmed from. So we won't ever use them again, obviously.
Oh, never, ever. I will make sure that nobody uses them.
DVSA took it very seriously. As far as we know, some action was taken. We know what action was taken, but with that we're not allowed to say, because it goes undercover, and we can't discuss. So that's where we were with that, wasn't it? When we finally got the welding done, and it went to another different MOT tester, because the guy that did the welding, he drove it up because he's allowed to, because it's direct to an MOT centre. And we said to him, just we're not going to come back down from Durham down to Mansfield to take it for an MOT, and if it fails, I've got to drive all the way back up again. So we let him take it. It passed. We expected it to pass, but there were very few advisories.
There was. I've never seen an MOT that says at all that all it said on the main thing was covered in
the welding's
seal or something was all it said.
Yeah, the welding's been done and looks strong and covered in sealant, and I thought, well, okay.
How has that got to do with an MOT?
Is that the MOT centre saying, I can't really test it? Or is that the MOT centre saying, yeah, the work's been done? So we just merrily plod on. We've got an MOT. We were quite happy with the fact that it had passed and there wasn't much else. So yeah, roll on another year. We take it in for its MOT, as you know from recent videos, and it fails again, really, really badly, on the things that were advisories on the MOT prior to the pass. So this is another test centre with another set of different ideas. The inconsistency is incredible. Absolutely
I don't understand it. I don't get it. I understand that the whole point of an MOT is to test a vehicle to make sure it's safe to be on the road. I get that. I do. What I don't get is how one garage can say, yep, this is wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. Okay, they're all looking at the same vehicle. There is no different vehicle. It is the same thing they're all looking at. How can then you take it to a different test centre? They don't find any of these problems from the original, but they find 30 new ones. Mm. We did it when we had, before motorhomes, we'll go back to when we had a vehicle. We had a vehicle that had to go in for a test. We used the council, didn't we, for the buses?
We did use the council, taxis. Yeah, Scarborough Council.
We took our vehicle into them. They came up with a few issues. We were like, right, okay, the time we were with AA. Another thing that we will talk about because I think it's another bit of a scam. But we were with the AA. They said, yep, use this garage, blah, blah, blah. We were quoted an astronomical amount of money for the work that needed to be done. I've never had a quote like it in my life, not even now compared to the motorhome. And it was all because the AA charge per thing per hour. So if there's 3 things wrong, they actually split that into separate 3 jobs, and they charge you for that one job and the amount of hours that mechanic would need to do that work is one individual bill. Then the second job is one individual bill. Adding the hours on again. Then the same with the third, adding the hours on again. Instead of them doing it all in one, because that's what the garage is going to do, they're going to put your vehicle in the air, they're going to repair all your problems at the same time while your vehicle's in the air. They're not going to take it down, put it all back together, then to put it back in the garage.
Exactly
but
right.
But the AA charge you for all them hours.
For each job. And we know that they add a lot of money on top of what the garage are charging, because this is at least twice we've been down this path.
Yes.
Once with us,
once with your parents.
Once with my mum and dad as well.
But going back to what I was saying, so this garage, the first garage came up with these 3 problems. So we were like, right, okay, so we paid to have one of the problems done, didn't we? We paid to have the radiator fixed. That was the main issue. The Audi was the radiator. So we paid to have the radiator fixed. Cost us, I think it was £600 something around there. And then they came back and they went, oh, actually, we found this, and this. But because we'd gone through the AA, they were like, this, and this job, it's going to cost you something like $2,500. The car wasn't worth that.
No, it wasn't.
So it was kind of like, right, doesn't matter. We're going to take it to a different garage. Yeah. They made you sign paperwork because they said it was dangerous to drive.
They didn't say it was dangerous to drive. The MOT had expired, so they were covering themselves. But they weren't very pleasant about it.
No, they weren't.
I have to say, they were quite, why are you taking it away? Why aren't you paying the money? It was like, because it's astronomical. I know what the work is that you're going to do, and there's no way it costs that amount of money. As it turns out, I was right. I mean, we took it to a local garage in Filey, and they had a look at it, and it cost us, was it half the price?
It cost us about £500 to have the work done, and they wanted to charge us $2,500.
Yeah, it's something ridiculous.
It was so bad.
The cost was so different. And
even the garage, when we took it in, and he fixed the problems that they said that were the issue. And even when he looked at the paperwork and said they were going to charge you, I think it was $1,500 for something, and he went, yeah, we can do that for like £400.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, really, how can garages get away with doing that?
One of the things that was on the list that they were charging £100 for, he was Adam, I think, that did the work in Filey, and
it was, yeah.
He just turned around and said, it's 5 minutes. That it will literally, it's like a fiver's worth. It's not hundreds of pounds.
No.
Yeah, we've not really had good experiences, and we talk about the one in Scarborough, the county council, the council MOT. We won't ever use them again.
No, because they
destroyed 2 cars.
We did, yes.
We should have learnt the first time. When they revved the engines up, they blown a gasket on one, and it was the water thing they broke on the other one, wasn't it?
Yeah, they popped the radiator or something.
And it's like, how can this happen? So yeah, we're not. You can understand why we get so jittery when it comes around to MOTs, because we've never ever had a good experience.
I do have to say, we've slagged the AA off when it comes to a vehicle. I do have to say, the last time we used them for the motorhome, they were actually brilliant.
Oh,
that
absolutely.
Guy who came out was brilliant with the van. He wasn't like blasé about it. He was so down to earth. He even followed us for quite a few miles to make sure we were driving okay. I can't completely call them worse, because that was actual brilliant.
The actual AA, and we had them out to the Audi when it wouldn't start, and the guy just got a bit of wire out, didn't he?
Yes.
And he said,
I was missing
don't watch what I'm doing. And he just car started, and he said, yeah, just keep this bit of wire just in future if you need it. So yeah, and the AA, they were brilliant, weren't they? Because we were going to get a courtesy car.
They were going to tow our
Scotland.
vehicle. Yeah.
We thought the clutch had gone. So, but they were brilliant. But what I did find out, the AA garaging servicing arm isn't AA. It's just branded AA. It's run by somebody completely different. So let's not tie the two together. It's branded as AA, but
I know, but I just wanted to make sure people were aware that we have actually had really good positive
we're not
from actual AA turning up to the vehicle.
Yeah.
Just when we actually took it for its MOT, it was a complete disaster.
Yeah.
Like, I just didn't want to tell everybody with the same
it is a
approach.
different company, but they shouldn't brand it as AA.
So we after the first MOT disaster, we did phone them. They gave us quite a good description of how they were going to follow on and what they were going to do. But I'm quite surprised by some information that you found out. So literal hundreds of garages every year actually get closed because of false MOTs.
last year there were 1,400 prosecutions for fake MOTs. DVSA estimate that it's thousands and thousands. I mean, I can imagine. We've said 10 million failures, so people are going to pay to get a fake MOT just so they can keep the vehicles on or sell them. And I think that's what's happened to us. I genuinely do.
I think that's where these are coming in. I do think people beforehand, especially certain garages, obviously I can't tar every garage, but we have seen so many horror stories of people who have gone to a garage, bought a van or a car, then had it a month and it's failed on something or something's gone wrong, and it didn't come up on the MOT.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, how can it be MOT'd and then something only, I've seen it as bad as only a couple of weeks later, something's gone wrong.
Yeah.
But how can that then, what can you do?
We know that DVSA are acting. We know that, they're prosecuting people. As we said, there's hundreds of MOT testers being struck off. So they are actioning it. And this year they're now adding a photograph. So you've got to photograph the vehicle in your garage with the registration plate to prove that it's actually been in. That's not going to stop them not finding things that they don't want to find, is it?
No, it isn't.
So what can you do? You can get an MOT done at any time of the year. So if you buy, as we did, bought the motorhome with some MOT on it, what we could have done was then taken it for an independent MOT somewhere else to find out. Because Dave, who does our welding, last year when he looked at it, he said this amount of rust and decay has not happened in the last year. This has been going on for years, didn't he?
Yes.
He said that to us. And to find that this year it's the things that it failed on the advisories before, which meant it's getting worse, that's not just happened in this last year either. That's been ongoing for some time because of the extent of it. So how do you, as you say, the question is, what do you do?
You just skated my question, it's fine. I'm asking you, so I have bought a vehicle, I've had it for a year, I've taken it for its MOT and it's failed drastically on things that shouldn't have, or I've not even had it a year. Say I've only had it a month and I've taken it in to have an MOT done or something's gone wrong. What can I do legally to either prosecute or to, I don't know, complain?
Unfortunately, after a year, there's not a lot you can do because there's no proof that that's happened prior to you purchasing it, which I think you've got 3 months basically. So if you get an MOT done within the 3 months and it just fails badly, then you can go back to DVSA or Trading Standards and they'll take the case on for you if you're not getting any joy with who you purchased it from. But if you get a year down the line like we did, there's not a lot you can do.
Can I also just add as well, if you are going to complain, if you get the MOT done and there is something there, or you have to get 2 MOTs done like we did, you do have to make sure that the garage does not touch your vehicle, because we were quite surprised by this. It has to remain exactly the same so that they can retest it.
Yeah, DVSA will tell you this when they get round to talking to you. But yeah, if it's failed on things, you basically need to leave it as it is. You don't fix anything, so they can investigate it thoroughly. Because
they do actually, I don't know why they didn't do it with ours, but they do ask you to take it back to a garage or back to the garage where it was MOT'd. Somebody comes out there and somebody MOTs it in front of them to make sure that what they're saying is right. If
I remember rightly, we got offered a couple of options, didn't we? We could go to an independent MOT tester and have it done again.
Yeah.
To see if they found the same faults. But what we'd said was, they found all these faults. They do exist, we've seen them, so we know it's that bad. So that seems pretty pointless. Going back to the same garage with an MOT tester for the last MOT would have been the same. It was pointless. If we'd gone back to the one in Mansfield, that would have been interesting.
I think if they'd offered that as an option, I think I'd have done it. I think I'd have taken the van in and said, right, there you go, there's all the things you missed. Yeah. There's 12 dangerously things wrong with our van that you said, oh yeah, they're fine, off you trot. I think for me what my main concern was if we'd have passed that MOT the first year of just off the brakes and the handbrake, if we decided that year to sell the van on, it's a 6-berth motorhome. We don't know, it could be sold to a family with children. If something would have happened, would we have been liable for that? You're selling a dangerous vehicle.
You're selling a dangerous vehicle. So yeah, you're right. There are legal implications, aren't there? You're selling a vehicle privately to somebody, saying this is fit for purpose
and safe.
So if we had have passed that very first MOT with just the brakes failing, if it had passed then, and then we decided 6 months down the line we were going to sell it after we'd been to Scotland, and knowing what we know now, that it was pretty bad. If that vehicle had collapsed on the road while it was going up at that hill, for example,
on a motorway,
and it caused an accident, would have come back to us?
We would have been, well, I don't know, that's why I'm asking. I'm kind of a little bit like, if that would have happened and there was a family with children or something in that van, and it would the subframe collapsed, or we were told that underneath one of the wheels the chassis was pretty much gone. It was dangerous to drive.
It was dangerous to drive.
If something would have happened, God forbid it ever did, but if something was to have happened, we would have been facing prosecution because we'd have sold somebody a dangerous vehicle.
Absolutely.
And unsafe.
Absolutely, yeah.
How is that fair as an individual when you're trusting an MOT centre to do their job when then they're leaving you liable for a dangerous vehicle?
Yeah. We took it to the second garage, they found all the problems and we got those fixed. But how many vehicles are on the road right now that are dangerous?
Well, you know that there's already been how many prosecutions. We know there's thousands out there that are ghosts, MOTs.
Yeah.
So you're literally driving a death trap, because at the end of the day, there is a dangerous vehicle you're driving. You're driving something with power and fuel.
So 10 million vehicles failed, 6% on tyres and 30% on brakes. So to me, that's 9 million vehicles on the roads with tyres that aren't worth it and brakes that aren't going to work.
But my worry is that week before they get MOT'd, how many vehicles are on this road in the UK that are actually dangerous and unsafe?
10 million. that 10 million doesn't account for dangerous ones. So some of these may have failed with some minors, like the light bulb out.
Yes, but 30% have failed on brakes. So that's still 30% of vehicles in the UK at this moment in time that failed on their
brakes. Aren't worth.
So somebody's coming towards you and they haven't got their brakes, or the MOT hasn't picked it up. It doesn't bear thinking about some of it, does it? Because you are relying on one person doing their job to keep you and your family safe. Especially when you look at things like bigger vehicles and motorhomes, buses and things like that. You're not even just talking about yourself and your family, you're talking about yourself and other families. And I think the government need to do something on how MOTs are happening. I think just taking a photograph of a vehicle going into an MOT centre isn't enough. I think they should be documenting. They should have to take photographs of every section that they're looking at to prove they've actually looked, with numbers.
Well, I have to say, the one that we took it to here, they did a thorough job, and they do a report, and it was like 23, 24 pages long, and they take photographs of absolutely everything. So it was the most thorough thing that I've seen from an MOT, and it was great. So when we've handed that document to Dave to say that's all the work that he's doing, he knows exactly what to get done. Yeah. It's not just an MOT certificate saying failed on these things. This photographic evidence, and I like that. I think you're right. I think garages should be made to do that.
I agree. I think there should be specific areas that they have to take a photograph of all the tyres. I guess it might add a bit extra time on, but I would rather have that piece of evidence so that if heaven forbid ever happens, if something happens 6 months down the line and you've sold it, you can say, that is what my MOT centre said. There's all the photographs of everything. So anything that's happened wasn't there when we sold the vehicle.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, isn't it, where it doesn't matter where you go. You've always, it's a gamble, isn't it? It's like rolling the dice and just hoping.
Well, it is. Well, we found that. How many MOTs have we had done? And every single one's been different. So you take your luck, don't you? It really feels like a throw of the dice where you take it to. Anyway, we've not got our MOT
we're still on a fail.
We're still on a fail. So it'll be interesting to see, because it's going back to the same. I'm guessing it's going back to the same MOT centre as the one that passed us last year, to see what they say this year. So stay tuned for that one and see what happens in a later vlog.
Yes, and I wish you all the best when it comes to that horrible day of the year that we all dread. Yeah, I hope that you get a decent centre that does a decent job.
Yeah. So just to wrap up, advice: if you're buying a motorhome, a second-hand motorhome, get somebody professional to have a look over it. That's where we failed. Go to the AA or somebody. Once you've got it, even though it's been looked at, I would personally have it MOT'd. Even if it's got a year's MOT on, I'd still take it to another garage. For the 50 quid, it's peace of mind. Get it done again by somebody else. And when it comes round to the MOT expiring, get it done a month early. So if there is some work to get done, you've got some time to get it done before it completely runs out. Because what you don't want to be doing, MOT runs out, you get your MOT done, it runs out, and then you can't drive it anywhere to get it repaired. I know you can if you've pre-booked it in, but it means that you can't drive it back to your house. You've got to drive it from a garage to another garage.
And you also can't park it on a street, which was something we learned. You can't park a vehicle on a public street if it has no MOT.
Correct. I didn't know that.
No, neither did I.
I thought it was if it wasn't taxed, you couldn't park it in a public place, but apparently if it's not got an MOT, you can't park it in a public place because it's not fit to be on the road. Yeah, lots to think about.
There is. We just thought we would just throw that at you way earlier than your MOT's due. Just that bit of extra stress for you.
Yeah, but it's here to help. It's our experience. We've had a really, really, really bad experience of MOTs. We want to pass that on to you so that you don't experience the same things.
Yeah, but you know what I'd love to hear? Your MOT horror stories. So if you've got a story about your MOT, tag it below, give us a comment, hit that like button and hit that subscribe. Please don't also forget that we do currently have our members open. So if you would enjoy our content and you would like to support us, then you can become a member. There is loads of perks of becoming a member. So yeah, so thanks for joining us, and we will see you on Sunday for a live at 7:30, Tuesday for an ordinary vlog, and don't forget our Thursday podcast.
And hopefully by the time we get around to Tuesday's vlog, we'll have a MOT pass. Fingers crossed.
Go out there and have an adventure. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you for watching.